Hey everyone, I'm Jennifer Whitaker and welcome back. This is, I think I'm on the fourth video right now in a series that I'm doing on Dr. Steve Hassan's BITE model of authoritarian control. The B stands for behavior control. The I stands for information control. And I've already recorded those two videos and released them. If you missed them, circle back and watch them because these all relate. And if you just watch today's video, you're only getting a small snippet of a much bigger picture. T stands for thought control and E stands for emotional control. And this is important because for many, many years, people thought that brainwashing was and thought control and mind control, coercive control. They thought these were just esoteric things that they didn't understand. Well, it turns out there are specific methods and tactics that authoritarian groups, leaders, and individuals use to recruit and maintain control over other people. And the BITE model helps deconstruct those methods and tactics so you know what to look for to help protect you from getting sucked into a situation that you don't want to be in. And I've used this analogy before. It's like a puppeteer with a marionette. Once the puppeteer has control, it doesn't take too much manipulation to get a specific result or behavior from the person being controlled. It's like the crossbar and the strings that the puppeteer uses to control the marionette. You can't see some of the movements that they're using to control with the naked eye because it's so subtle. So it appears to be esoteric or like magic, but it's really not. So to prevent yourself from becoming a marionette to someone else who wants to be the puppeteer controlling you, let's take a look at T, which is thought control under the BITE model. I'm Jennifer Whitaker, trauma specialist, and welcome back to my channel. It's great to have you here. And if you're finding value in these videos, give me a thumbs up, share them with someone else who could benefit, subscribe, and be sure to hit the bell so you don't miss the rest of the videos in this series. All right, let's jump in and talk about thought control. Thought control is another really big category. And like the previous videos, if you would like to follow along, please go to freedomofmind.com. This is Dr. Steve Hassan's website. And under education, the drop-down menu, click Dr. Hassan's BITE model of authoritarian control, and you can follow along with the same list that I'm looking at. So under thought control, there are 11 main categories, and a couple of them have subcategories. So the first one under thought control is to require members to internalize the group's doctrine as truth. And this includes adopting the group's map of reality as reality, instilling black and white thinking, making you decide between what is good or what is evil, what is right, what is wrong, what is righteous and holy, and, what is evil and unholy, and to organize people into us versus them, insiders versus outsiders. So there's always some form of othering. And we see this in some of the classic religious cults, where if you leave the group, your soul will be damned to hell. And you have to take this doctrine as truth. And so there are only so many of us who are going to be saved, whenever the apocalypse happens. And you want to be in that small group of special people who are going to be saved. So we're the insiders and everyone else is the outsiders. Number 2, under thought control, is changing a person's name and identity. Now, not all groups will change a person's name, but there are some groups out there who will do whatever they can to change your name. So instead of being known as Jennifer, I might, end up with some other very Eastern sounding name. And Changing the identity is what happens more often than changing the name in these situations where we find ourselves being controlled and manipulated by other people, because abusers and authoritarians and cult leaders are known to break you down so they can build you up into exactly what they want you to be, which is a shell of yourself that's easy to control. Number 3, there's a use of loaded language and cliches in these power over situations, which constrict knowledge, they stop critical thinking, and they reduce complexities into platitudes and buzzwords. And it's actually a little bit patronizing when you think of it. And one of the things, this doesn't really fall into the overarching category, but major religions around the world do have a couple little culty elements to it. And one of the little culty elements about Christianity is, if there is anything to speak critically about it or to ask questions, a lot of times the rebuttal, especially if it's coming from an unhealthy Christian individual, but not necessarily the institution itself, you might hear, oh, well, the Lord works in mysterious ways. So it's okay to talk about this topic, but it's not okay to question it, because if you question those mysterious ways, then there's something wrong with you. And so that's just an example of a cliche that might stop your thinking, and to where you're like, oh, I need to stop thinking critically. That's right. Things do work in mysterious ways, and I just need to accept that. Meanwhile, that mysterious way could be some shift of the crossbar, the cross brace, or one of the strings that you didn't see happening. Number 4, encouraging only good and proper thoughts. And there is this cult of spirituality out there. Not everybody who identifies as being spiritual is in a cult, but there is definitely, aspects of cults that run through the spiritual community. And encouraging only good and proper thoughts gets into toxic positivity. It minimizes and invalidates what your actual feelings are, and it shames you and guilts you if you have an authentic and righteous expression of anger or grief or sadness or fear or any emotion that is not considered, or any thought that's not considered good and proper. How can you think like that? How can you anticipate that something bad would happen? Well, sometimes, planning for something bad that might happen isn't a bad thing. I mean, isn't that why cars come with spare tires? I mean, think about it. So sometimes the good and proper thoughts keep us under control. Number 5, hypnotic techniques can be used to alter mental states, undermine critical thinking, and even to age regress the member. And age regressing a member can create this learned helplessness and dependence within the member on the group or the family or the individual. Hypnotic techniques, because there are a lot of self-help cults and therapy cults that are human potential cults that are really active in the world and have been for a decade or more. And a lot of them will use hypnosis or guided meditations in these large group awareness trainings or human potential trainings, where there's one person guiding a whole group of people, where what it really is an indoctrination process. Now, is everybody who's doing guided meditations and guided imagery, are they all indoctrinating people? No. But that's why it's important to take a step back and look a lot more closely if you are taking part in group meditations or, public guided imagery or anything like that. Number 6, memories are manipulated and false memories are created. So again, telling you over and over and over again, oh no, that didn't happen. Oh no, that didn't happen. This is the way it happened. This can happen in relationships and families, and it really does feel like a gaslight. It can feel crazy making inside your own head to be on the receiving end of this type of manipulation. And at some point, when we hear something enough, we just start to believe it. So over time and subtly, false memories can created just by saying the same things to you over and over, or saying things like, oh no, that's not what happened, and causing you to question your own reality. Number 7 under thought control is teaching thought-stopping techniques. And thought-stopping techniques will shut down reality testing and critical thought by stopping any negative or critical thoughts and only allowing certain positive thoughts or the thoughts that the group has implanted in you. And so some of the subcategories under this, these thought-stopping techniques include denial, rationalization, justification, and wishful thinking. And so this is one of the reasons, now I don't want to, this is one of the reasons that people take issue with The Secret, because there's this wishful thinking that is so overemphasized. Now, is wishful thinking or The Secret harmful? I don't know. I just know that this particular line item is what people often take issue with. So keep that in mind, because it is a red flag, but one red flag does not make a cult. Another thought-stopping technique could be chanting, or humming, or singing, praying, speaking in tongues, meditating. So it's kind of like somebody says something that you don't want to hear. And these are the equivalents to la, 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 I'm not listening. I'm going to shut it out. I'm going to block it out so I don't have to hear this. And I'm going to do it through prayer, through singing, through chanting, through denial, through meditating, through speaking in. So these are all different ways to shut down critical thought and block anything that might encourage you to question the situation you're in. Number 8, rejection of rational analysis, critical thinking, and constructive criticism. So there is overlap with the one before, but the other one is a thought-stopping technique to keep it from getting in. And then there's also this rejection of any sort of rationality. And we see this rejection, we see it with some of the irrational responses that come from very rational and valid questions. We see it on the news all the time. This is a really, really big one with some of the politicians who are involved with some of the political cults that are out there. Where you'll ask a very rational question and the answer you will get will be off the wall, and so off the wall that it's really hard to come back with another question that's rational. Number 9, forbidding critical questions about the leader, the doctrine, or the policy. So questioning is not allowed. So that's another big one. Are you in a situation where you can ask questions to your spouse or your partner or your parents? Can you say, like, why? Can you help me understand? Can you offer alternative ideas that might be more effective or more efficient, or are you shut down if it's not the leader's idea? And what happens within the group. So think about larger groups like Scientology, questioning Scientology, or talking about rational thinking to question Scientology could easily turn you into a suppressive person who then could become under attack by Scientology. Number 10 is labeling alternative belief systems as illegitimate, evil, or not useful. And again, this is a big one. And this goes back to the insider-outsider doctrine. If they say it, it must be false. If we say it, it must be true. If it comes from the outside, you can't trust it, you can't believe it. But if it comes from the inside, you can. From inside the relationship, inside the group. And labeling, again, going back to Scientology as an example, just the simple labeling of outsiders or people who critique Scientology or people who have left Scientology, ex-members, that label of suppressive person, and for the insider to know what that means and to buy into that doctrine creates this thinking of, I can never become a suppressive person and I will do whatever I can not to lose favor with this group. And finally, the 11th line item under thought control is instilling a new map of reality. because the map of reality that a controlled person has is not an accurate reflection of what reality actually is. So instilling that new map of reality is where we start to hear some of these irrational responses because they buy into it wholeheartedly. And this new map of reality often comes through a pseudo identity, which is not quite the person that you always knew. You might see as somebody's talking and they go into their alternate or new map of reality, you might start to see that 1,000-yard stare, or they might start to look like Stepford wife who's just, going through the motions, almost robotic on the inside. You'll see a little bit of a shift in behavior. And if it's you, you might notice the shift in behavior within yourself if you're being controlled. All right, everyone, I hope you have found this information helpful. Today was thought control, and next week, I'm going to go over emotion control on the BITE model. So be sure to tune in, and if you don't want to miss it, hit that bell. And if you have any comments, please share below. What do you think? Are you glad that you've been introduced to the BITE model? Are you looking forward to going over emotional control next week? Are you enjoying this? Are you finding it helpful? Let me know. All right, everyone, happy self-discovery. I'll see you all next time.